Hey, g'day Adventure Crew, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got ourselves a little 15 horse Johnson. It's a little two-stroke. It's a 2004 model. We're going to change the impeller out because weapon of a little motor, but we've gone to use it and it stopped pumping water. So I think it's simply just an impeller. So we're going to get in, we're going to rip the leg off, we're going to change the impeller. Bit of a different location today. We're out in the shed and I've got my little mate Nash here with me. He's got himself on school holidays, so he's going to be helping out where he can. But yeah, we're going to rip the leg off, change the impeller, and hopefully it pumps water and can get back out there and see if we can go and put on a little tin and go and slay some fish. So look, first steps, a couple of things to remember. Old American motor, everything's going to be Imperial. So got the Imperial spanners out, 6 bolts, hold the leg on, 3 either side. And then the gear selector. So we'll whip all them out, whip the leg off, and yeah, we'll go from there. The thing with these is old motors and boats, generally the bolts freeze up. So really just take your time and work them out. Worst case, if they freeze, we can always put a little bit of heat on them just to loosen them up. But so far guys, this 3 have come loose. Hopefully the other side do the same. So I got lucky, they've all broken free. So now they've cracked free with the spanner. Just grab a little socket and we'll whip them out with that. They're a little bit frozen to start with, but they're not too tight now, so maybe whoever did the job the last time put a little bit of anti-seize on them. So I've got some there, so when we put it back together we'll whack that on so that it's nice and free for next time, for whoever gets to do the job. The thing with these kind of jobs is they're not overly complicated, they just get difficult when bolts freeze. So all going well, because we've already got the parts, I wouldn't think that it would take much more than sort of 20 minutes, half an hour to whip it out in real time, but not going to put you through the pain of watching the whole 20 minutes of me slowing down doing bolts. I'll shorten it up a fair bit for you. But it's one of these jobs that you can have a crack at home. You know, don't be afraid of it. Take your time, have a look, see what's going on, and yeah, get it apart. Nice actually being in the shed, nice and close to all the tools. Yeah, based on this, I reckon whoever's had this apart and done an impeller previously has put something on the threads, because like I said, once they broke free, they're all just more than finger tight. So I've taken off this little side cover here too, to try and see how the gear linkage connects, and At the moment I can't see a connection, so maybe the leg drops down a little bit and then it disconnects from there, but only got one more to do, and we'll have a look and we'll see. There we go, I don't know if you can see, I'll just turn it a little bit. In here, there's a couple little pinch bolts that look like they just grip onto the selector shaft. So they may be the troublesome ones because they're little Phillips head. So spin that around. Let's grab a Phillips and see how we go.
This is the part we think we broke, so we're going to try and put that back on the motor. Put a new one on, see how it runs.
Yep. This is the troublesome bit. Because they are frozen.
Do you need a drill?
Give it a little spray. Right. Just a little bit of basic WD. I'll just give it just a touch with the impact to see if we can shock it free. So the last thing we want to do is round that out because that will be really difficult. Righto, we're back now. Got to remember with the heat, we just want to really be careful with what we do because inside here the actual housing for the impeller is plastic, so we need to be really careful and make sure that we don't apply any heat to that and melt it. So yeah, it's probably a bit hard to see, but just through here is where it looks like it pinches onto the gear selector, so I'll have to really make sure we just put the heat directly onto that. Thought it might have been too good to be true that it was all just going to come loose. Right.
It's on fire.
There we go. Try and find a different bit. Mine's a little bit rounded on the edge and just seems to be slipping out. I'll give that one a try. Oh yeah. So got it out. Let's grab some pliers because it's going to be hot. Alright, let's grab some needle nose. There we go. That's it. Must have had a little bit of water leak in there at some point because you can see it's just sort of rusted up, but just getting that little bit of heat on it made a difference. And there you go, it pops straight off. So it locates on that shaft. There's just that little bit of a keeper, so the bolt just goes straight through, locks into there. Then we just slide it out of the power head. Done. And that's the leg. So, alright, so got the leg off, guys. Underneath here is this is this little plastic housing I mentioned that we didn't want to overheat. So underneath here lives the impeller. They're just a tiny little impeller because it's only a 15 horse. So a bit of corrosion in there, so I'll have a little dig around, clean it out. We've got 4 7/16 bolts on top. We'll get them out and yeah, we'll get the impeller out. I'm hoping that these ones come free. Oh. Yep, that one looked corroded but came free. This one's a little bit tight, so just take time, work it out. Because if we break one of these off, it's just a whole world of hurt. 3 and 4. Wow. Got them all. I was a little bit worried about these couple down the bottom here because they look pretty ugly. Right, so we'll just get these out. Let's put them aside so we don't get them muddled. You can use impact on this kind of stuff, those little impact drivers and stuff, but you know what, I just don't think it's the best idea, especially around all this corrosion, because it just wouldn't take much for the bolts to freeze and then you just strip them off. You know, I use those kind of tools a lot for doing other bits and pieces, but just on this marine stuff, it's just too easy for it to bind up, and then we're in trouble. Give it a clean off. Hold it down. And then out it comes. That's it. That's our little impeller. Just living deep down in its hole there. Yep, so everything looks pretty good here. So I'll give it a quick run over with the wire brush and scrape out some of this old corrosion in there, but yeah, what happens over time, the impellers just lose their tension on the little fingers and then they just don't pump. So I normally try and change these about once a year, but you can see here the new one, you know, it's nice and it's nice and straight, and there's plenty of tension on the fingers, where this one, they've lost their tension and it's sort of holding shape a little bit, so yeah, it's cactused. So I'll leave you there, guys. I'll duck off, I'll give it a bit of a clean, and yeah, I'll be back in a sec to reassemble. Good coat, base plate, one like that. I don't actually know, not a marine mechanic. I don't know if it actually does anything, but I always just give it a little coat. If nothing else, it stops any friction on that first start up before it gets the water up to it. So now we've got the new impeller. So yeah, we'll just slide it over and on the shaft and whack the top cover back on it.
A few moments later.
Alright, well, we just had a little holy shit moment. Went to put the impeller on and the keyway had fallen out. Now I heard something rattle off the bench while I was cleaning it up. Oh god, and I just thought it was a bit of corrosion, a bit of scum out of here, but no, it was the keyway. So what it is, guys, is on the shaft there's a flat spot and then there's a space for a keyway to go in here. so that when the shaft gets turned by the outboard, it actually turns the impeller. So that fell down, pulled half the shed apart, found it, got it on. So yeah, we're back. So let's whack this top cover back on now. So just rotate nice and steady so that the impeller takes its shape. So what we're doing, guys, is, like I said, we just rotate the shaft till get the impeller seated, bring it down nice and steady so that the housing's back down. Got our 4 little bolts. Like I said, everything that I'm putting back now gets itself a little dose of this grey ADCs. So it doesn't take much, it's not much effort, but geez, you'll thank yourself later when you go to pull this apart next time, and it actually just comes apart. So all in all, I think we were really lucky with the bolts. It was only that one on the gear stick, or the gear selector, that gave us any little trouble, but even with a bit of heat on it, it wasn't much of a problem in the end. And same thing, I don't like using impacts on this stuff, even going in. It's got the thread cleaner, we've given the threads a clean up, but still they're only little threads. Just run them in with your fingers, nip them up and move on. Oops. Like I said, this grey grease is good, the anti-seize, but it's filthy and it makes everything slippery. Just remember too, when tightening this stuff up, it's not holding wheels on, so it hasn't got to be super ridiculous. It's all into aluminium, so it will strip. You just want to nip it, put a little bit of pressure on. Done. Next thing, I'll put a little bit of grease down on the gear selector, the anti-seize. I'll put some up the top here, because on this spline here, this is where it goes into the bottom of the motor, so I'll put a little bit on there just so that it doesn't ever seize up. Like I said, we're building this thing, rebuilding this thing so that it can come apart again. And I did have another motor, I didn't put any on the shaft, and what ended up happening was I've got this little squeak where it goes up the tube inside, so since then I always just put a little bit on the tube. I never thought that it'd be a problem, but it was, and it was a nuisance, so yeah. So take your time when putting the leg back in, because you'll feel that it'll make its way up. There's a water tube that runs down inside the bottom here. You've got to make sure that lines up with the top of that impeller housing. And you've also got to make sure that you get your gear stick lined up. So there's a little bit happening here all at once, but it's not unachievable. So yeah, that's the one that was the problem. I'll just give it a quick wire brush. Bit of this anti-seize. Oh, well, then we'll be able to get it out next time. And I undid it with the impact, but it'll be getting done back up just with a spanner. Sorry, a screwdriver, because it just doesn't need to be that tight. The advantage with using the impact to get it off is it just gives it a little bit of a shock and can sometimes break that seal. So that's it, that's all it needs. Run the gear back so that it pulls it up nice and tight. Same thing, the 6 that hold the leg on. Bit of never seize. get them in. I'm just going to run them up with this little wobbly extension just to make it a little bit easier. But same thing, I wouldn't put the impact on them because it just doesn't need it. This motor, I've got a little 12-foot car topper, so we're going to give it a run on that and see how it goes. I think it might be a little bit too much power for it because it's only 12 foot and this is a 15 and it's a really strong 15. So we'll give it a shot on that. If it's too much, we might even just move this motor on and have a look at a little bit more of a subdued, maybe I don't know, maybe just a 6. Okay, same thing when you tighten these up, guys, they've only just got a nip up. They're only little 3/8 head bolts. They're not super strong. Like I said, they're not holding wheel nuts on. Wheel's never going to fall off. The leg's never going to fall off. I'm only using a little 1/4 inch gear here so that you just can't apply too much. It's a good little tip is on these little things that are like 10 mils, 3/8, just don't get carried away. Don't use 3/8 gear, 1/2 inch gear, because you'll just get it too tight and snap it. So now all we got left is this cover. Didn't need to take it off, but did anyway. On and on. Same thing, last two, a little bit of never sees on them. In case we ever got to get them off again. And that's it. We are done. Like I said, it's a really quick job and it's really easy when all the stuff comes undone. It's a pain in the ass when everything's frozen, but on this time we got lucky. So what I'll do, guys, I'll shut it off here. We'll whack it on the stand. We'll go out, we'll grab some earmuffs, and we'll go and see if this thing pumps water. Alright, well, we've got the water on, got the earmuffs on, got a bit of choke. Let's see how it goes. There's just no water coming out of that telltale, but you know, having that new impeller in it, pumping absolute bucket loads of water, so I'm going to call that a success. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Like I said at the start, it's a quick and easy job. Do it at home. It's not worth overheating your boat motor for. So I reckon all in all, if I didn't have to pull half the shed apart and look for that keyway, I reckon it was probably about a 20 or 25 minute job. So very much well worth doing. So look, thanks for hanging in. Do me a favor, guys, if you could like to the channel, if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. It would mean a lot. So if you can get it done, get it subscribed, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.